Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us again for another episode of Leading on Mondays. My name is Florin Lungu, and I'm so delighted to be with you today. And I'm joined by my friend and colleague at Maxwell Leadership, Madalina Guinesco. Hi, Madalina.
Hello, everyone. So happy to be here with you again.
Absolutely. And today we're going to discuss about some leadership myths, right? And what leadership is and what leadership is not. So I know we have some questions, and you also have some questions. So why don't we go directly to those questions? So what would be the first question people have?
Because we are talking about myths, I'm very curious, in your opinion, Florin, what are the biggest myths that people have about leadership?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's why we're even, thought about this episode. It's because there are some myths that are going around, and people think that first, the first thing is that people believe that leaders are born, right? And there is a joke that goes around, and John Maxwell says, sometimes he's asked at conferences if leaders are born, and he said, "Well, I haven't met an unborn leader, right? So people are born, right? Because in order to be a leader, you need to be a person and you need to be born, right?" But actually the question that they're asking is, are some people born with more leadership abilities than others? And that's true, right? Although some people might have, better natural gifts, right? They might be better communicators, they might be better with people. Everyone can learn to be a leader. So
Yes.
yes, like everything else, like if you want to start let's say playing the piano, right? If you have some gifts in that area, you would have an advantage, you would have a head start. But it doesn't mean that you cannot learn to play the piano. And leadership, it's exactly the same. So leaders are born, but we all can be leaders. It's just a matter of wanting to learn and putting the effort to learn. So that's one of the biggest myths that people actually, still believe in. But then there is also a couple of more. So another one is that a position makes us a leader. In other words, like I'm a leader just because, let's say, I've been promoted to be a leader. And we know that that's not true. We know that people, you know, we see people that have leadership positions, but not, they're not a leader, right? And
Agree.
we know
I said that.
exactly. And so we know that having a position doesn't make you a leader. And this comes with another challenge that we're going to discuss it a little bit later, but just keep it there. People believe that if you have a position, that you're a leader, and that's a myth. That's wrong, because you have to develop as a leader, and you don't have to wait until you have the position in order to develop yourself as a leader. So if we believe that only when I have a position I become a leader, and that makes me automatically a leader, then we're wrong, right? Because we still need to develop our leadership skills. And the last one that I want to mention now, there are definitely more, but one which is a lot, very common. It's people equate leadership with management. So many times they use it interchangeably, like they will be the same thing. And we know they're not. We know that leadership, it's something that we need in a company when we want change, when we have a certain state or a certain culture, and we want to change that culture. So a leader is someone that can take a team from point A to point B. They take a result from level A to level B. They can implement change and they can drive results. While a manager is someone that could keep systems and processes in place. So if you have an established team and you don't need any change and you're happy with the results, you want to maintain systems, then you can have a manager. So management and leadership are not the same thing. And this is one of the mistakes people make. And it's a very, widespread myth.
Wow, thanks for that. I totally agree with you. With being a leader in a position doesn't mean that you can actually be a leader. So it's something that you can develop. And anybody who wants to become a leader, and let's say they don't believe they have the skills, they can actually practice to become a better leader. And I have another question related to leadership.
Mhm.
Florin, are you ready? Are you
Absolutely.
ready for the question? Good. What is leadership at its main core?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know if you just Google the term, you get
Yep,
about 3 billion answers in about
agree.
0.67, point, point
I saw
6,
that.
point 0.6 seconds. So while there are many leadership definitions, or definitions of what leadership is, what John Maxwell teaches and what I have found to be true, it's that leadership is influence. John Maxwell says leadership is influence, nothing less, nothing more. And I'm gonna share a story with you how this started for me. So when I got my first leadership position, it started like I just I've been promoted to be the team leader of my colleagues. I was part of the team, and then we needed a new team leader, and I've been promoted to that position. So I didn't have any influence with my team. They only see me as one of their colleagues, and they will say things to me. Said, Florin, don't play the boss with us. You know how things work around here. Like, don't try to be the boss. And I that told me that I didn't even have any influence with them. I could not lead them. And so what I started to use, it was I didn't know anything better. So I started to use my boss's influence. Well, my boss asked me, so I need to ask you, and we need to do this. And when I needed them to prioritize something, I could not say that I believe this is something that will going to help us. I needed to say, well, it's my boss. If you don't believe me, go speak with him. So I use my boss influence in order for me to have people do something. But that didn't work that well, or it worked, but just not too far. It worked for a while, and then they got sick of that. So then I realized that one of the things that I could do is I could actually start, looking for how can I, serve my team? How can I show them that I can actually, bring some results for them? And little by little, I started to become their leader. In other words, I got the position just because someone, our section manager said that Florin is probably good enough for a leadership position. They got me that position, but I have no influence. So that's why the previous myth, like a position doesn't make you a leader, because I didn't have any influence with them, and I needed to really show them that I can help them. I needed to show them that I care for them. So I needed to start building what we call influence, because when it comes to influence, we try to influence people all the time. Like maybe we try to influence a spouse to choose the restaurant that we want. We try to influence the colleagues when we go out for lunch on Friday, that they would choose the restaurant that we want. We want maybe to influence our spouse or kids to go to a destination, vacation destination, or eat certain food or whatever, wear certain clothes. So we try to influence people all the time. But
Yeah.
leadership is actually influencing people, being aware and strategic, influencing people towards something that maybe they don't even see for themselves. So I know, okay, I cite and I quote John Maxwell a lot, but I also found this to be true in my experience, that leadership is actually nothing more, nothing less than influence, at the core. And then you can add more aspects to that.
Okay, yeah, good. I really like your example with what you did to actually take the leadership status in your team when you were previously their colleague, because I think this example is suitable for many people that are listening to us now. What should I do in that situation? And I actually was in a context when somebody at some time, one of my colleagues at some time took a leadership position that became my boss. And yeah, that was very interesting to just to notice from outside, from my expertise in leadership. I was just observing the situation. How is he dealing with this? How are the colleagues looking at him and things like that? And it was so important for us to have an it is so important to us to have for us to have an example, sorry, of people who are doing their best and what is the best practice in leadership. And this is what we are doing here, everybody. We are trying to give you tips and tricks. And that brings me to my next question, Florin. What do you think stops people in developing themselves as leaders?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that keeps people back, it's they don't see themselves as a leader. They don't believe they're a leader. And if we go back to what we just discussed, we look at leadership as being influence. Now, tell me someone that doesn't try to influence someone else.
I don't think it. Oh,
I don't.
I know. There are the dead people.
You're right. Well,
that people don't try to influence other
I'm
people.
not even sure about that, right? I can. Do you have proof for that?
Well, it
Well,
was just a joke. I
I
don't
know,
want
but
to.
if you think about that, they probably influence us still by the experience we had with them. But anyway,
Yeah,
I got your
yeah,
point, and you're
yeah,
right. As long
exactly.
as we
Yes.
are alive, we try to influence people. But I think what keeps people back is actually that and I hear this all the time, like, oh, you're working with leadership. Oh yeah, leadership is not for me. I'm not the leader. And I say, well,
I
you know,
I get this a lot also.
exactly. But what we say to people is, well, when opportunity comes, it's too late to prepare. So what holds people back is that they believe they have to have a leadership position to start developing as a leader rather than start developing as a leader before they have a leadership position. It's like almost saying, well, I don't have to learn how to swim. I'm going to figure out when I fall in the water. Well, I'm not sure if that's
Good
a
idea.
successful strategy, right? Or a good idea. I would not advise you doing that. But that's what they're saying, right? So I'm not developing as a leader just because I don't see myself a leader, and I'm going to wait until leadership. I'm going to have a leadership position. And they also, another thing that actually people make these mistakes at times is that they believe that experience would make me a leader. Like they equate experience with leadership, which means that someone has years of experience in a field, they are a leader, and that with more experience I will become better as a leader. And we know people that has been in jobs for years and they're not a leader, because leadership doesn't come just from you doing your work. You need to be intentional and you need to develop it. So I think that keeps people back. First, they don't believe they are a leader. They wait until they get a position to start developing, and they believe that if they just do their jobs, that's enough. And we know that activity is not the same thing with learning. Like if you we are exposed to experiences all the time, but if we don't stop and look at the leadership lesson, and if we don't learn from those lessons, we could actually do the same things over and over again and not learn anything from it. That's the reason why we make a mistake twice, because we didn't learn it the first time. So I think these three things keep people from developing as a leader.
Wow, good. I was actually thinking about something to add to what you said, because because like I said, I get a lot of this phrase, I'm not interested in leadership, I'm not a leader, I don't want to be a leader, and blah blah blah. Actually, people don't understand what leadership is when they say that, because when you said about leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less, I actually associate leadership with being a human. So, whenever you are a human being and you want to develop yourself, if you want to reach a specific goal, if you want to persuade your family to do something, and I give an example with a parent who wants their children to eat vegetables instead of sweets. So
Hmm.
that's a leadership context. When, let's say, you sell flowers at the corner of the street and you want to have buyers of your flowers, then you are leader in that context. So every time you are thinking about, well, being charismatic, problem solver, these are actually characteristics of a leader, and people don't actually have this distinguish between, I'm not a leader because I'm not a CEO, or I don't want to have a team to manage. With the position, I am a leader in my day-to-day life, even though I don't want it. I'm still a leader in my small context. So this is what I wanted to add, that we are leaders no matter what, if we want it or not. We are influencing people around us, and the better we gain more skills on that one, how to solve problems better, how to be more charismatic, how to improve our communication. And I can actually add one with learning. I want to learn a lot in my life. So the way I'm learning things, um, knowing this, these are all characteristics of leadership, and it's about day-to-day life. But the leadership is actually better viewed, better seen when it's in a company, it's in an organization, because we have a lot of specialized training on that, but that's another story. So remember this: everybody is a leader, even though they want it or not, even though they realize it or not, even if they want to be in a position or not of leadership. So I want to go to the next question, Florin. What is the fastest way to gain leadership influence?
Oh, that's a great question. And if I go back to the example I just gave you with me in my first leadership position and not having any influence with my team and kind of using my position, because at the end of the day, I was their manager and I could just use my position as, hey, we need to do things. But that didn't motivate them. So what I've done is I actually looked for the things that they were complaining about, or the things that they wanted me as their team leader to, to actually defend or get from the organization. Like, as a leader, you have actually two roles. Number one is you represent your team in the organization, and you represent the organization in the team, right? And
Yeah.
so many times leaders and sometimes less than optimal leader or bad leaders take the side of the team too much, or take the side of the company too much. And so you
Mm.
really have to have a balance there to know how to juggle that, right? So what happens is that when you actually try to be friend with your team, what happens is that you will start talking, negatively about the organization. And so what happens is that you diminish the trust people have in the organization. So I didn't want to do that, but I wanted to gain friends. So what I've done is actually I started to be the advocate of my team in the organization. I started to take problems. So whatever problem we have that they were complaining about, or anything that they needed, when you look at now agile leadership, which is a kind of a buzzword right now, they talk about removing hinders, right? And clearing the way for your team. What does it mean? It means like, okay, so instead of me focusing on on trying to get influence anywhere else, or with different methods, I would ask, okay, so if I could do something for you, what would that be? And they told me, they gave me a list. So I started to solve those problems on that list. So little by little, I show to them that I'm more than just, one of your former colleagues that now it's a leader, and I'm there just because we discussed this in another show, but we tend to believe that it's easier, that someone else's job it's easier. So I look at my boss and I believe, well, she doesn't do anything. I mean, she's just sitting there in meetings all day. I don't know, if it wouldn't be for us here at the ground floor, this company will be just, they'll close the company, right? This is what people believe. And when you are the manager, you probably think the same for, about your leader, and maybe you think the same for about your team. I've been on the team. I know how long it takes to do this stuff. Why does it take too long? So people will make assumptions. So instead of allowing that, I said, okay, let me help you with whatever you need. So I just went there and listened. And I listened to all the problems that they had. And then I took them in order of importance, and I solved those problems for them. And I showed that I can do more than that. I started to produce results for the team, and the team felt that, I'm defending them. I'm part of the team. And so that way I gain influence. So one way, or actually the fastest way for you to gain influence, is to solve problems for your team, right? So when you,
Mm.
the reason why they need a leader is that there are things that needs to be, they need to be moving, and they're not moving, and they don't have a manager because the system is not stable. So you're going to need to change some things, you're going to need to negotiate some things, and that's why they need you. So if you do those, and if you kind of just apply this servant leadership, and just go and say, hey, if there is anything that I could do for you, what would that be? And listen, and take that list, and then start working that list, and showing that you actually care for them, and you can actually solve those problems for them. And I just earlier, recorded a small video for TikTok, for my TikTok channel. And if, by the way, if you're not on TikTok, or if you are on TikTok, I will love for you to, check our content there too. But I was looking at the first step to motivate people is actually to remove the motivational factors, all those problems that people complain about in my team, because otherwise the meetings were like, Florin, but this equipment doesn't work. My PC, it's slow. This doesn't work. So that way, people would not focus on what we want them to focus, and they will complain. So
Yeah.
in order to gain influence, focus on solving the problems that your team has, but in order, and also that will help you motivate the team, because they will not complain about the same problems over and over again, and kind of hijacking your team meeting.
That's a good point, Florin. I wasn't thinking about that, and it's really valuable for me at this moment. And let us know, not me only, what comes after solving problems.
Yeah, so this is actually out of John Maxwell's five level of leadership. So he has a book on that, but he also we use this in different setups. So we start at position level. That was where I started when I was appointed as a leader, and then from there, I kind of worked my way to get permission from my team to lead them. Right when I started to show them results, then they kind of gave me permission. And at this level, people will start do things because they see that you bring results, right? And then after that, you go to production, right? So first of all, they didn't see me as a leader, so I only had the position, and I got their permission to be the leader because I started to show results. And then they also then backed me up, and we got even better results because they said, okay, so Florian's actually helping us. So now it almost kind of became something that they have to also produce something and kind of play their part, because I was playing my part and I was doing what I promised to do. So that way we kind of got to this level, which is called production. And from there, we start to not focus on bringing results, but we focus on developing people, right? So the next will be people development. And that's when I started to look for my replacer, right? So I've been doing that role for 3.5 years, but already probably 2 years in, I already know that I want to go to the next level. And the only way for me to go to the next level is to develop someone on my team who could replace me. So when I go to discuss with my supervisor, they cannot say, well, Florin, there's no one that can replace you. So I started to look
Yeah.
myself as being, replaceable, right? And looking to be dispensable for the team. But that meant that I needed to develop people, right? And so then the fifth level, which is kind of the holy grail of leadership, is pinnacle, where people just do things because of who you are and what you could do for them and the influence you have, with them and with the organization. So that's kind of, if you like, kind of the leadership ladder, right? But many people, or most people, start that position. And another myth that we actually, we just started with, we say that when you get a position, then that makes you a leader. Well, the challenge is that the position only gives you some time, right? So let's say you don't know me, right? You just joined my team and I'm the leader, right? And so you assume like, Florian, it's the leader. Okay, so it's the leader. Okay, but then you start to get to know me, right? And you realize very quickly if I'm a leader or not,
Yep.
right? So my position only bought me some time with you, and I could use that time to build my leadership skills to reach that position, or I could use that time to just undermine my influence and show you that actually I'm not the leader.
Wow, very good insights, Florin. I'm happy that you shared that with us some real examples that you're going through. I think we are at the end of the list of questions I had, and I'm happy to introduce the next topic that we have for next week. How do leaders prioritize their work? So let's have a chat together with powerful questions next time that usually leaders ask when they are talking about solving problems and prioritizing their work. Sorry for my English. So, Florin, I'm so happy and I cannot wait to have our next call. But before we close this call, I would like you to announce what happens on Wednesday.
Absolutely, yeah. So on Wednesday we have a special edition of our leading leadership for the now, because now I'm mixing them up. But leadership for the now on Wednesday, and we have a special guest, Corina Nagu from Romania, and we're gonna do kind of a trio episode. I'm gonna more or less give the stage to you ladies, and so you're gonna take us through what is the real, the real power of a outstanding HR department. So Corina will share to us what is the power that lies in maybe your HR department and you don't know about it. And you as a leader might want to know, how your HR department can help you, what to ask, what information they have, and maybe you're not using that. And so all these questions that you don't probably get to ask anywhere else. So we're so excited for that. So Wednesday, 5 p.m. Stockholm time, 6 p.m. Romanian time. Madalina, Florin, and Corina. We're gonna have a trio episode.
Yeah, sounds very well. I cannot wait for that either. That's so happy. I'm so happy for that one.
Absolutely, and I look forward to see you all there. So, okay, thank you for today, Madalina.
Exactly. I'm
Have a
looking
great
forward.
week.
That was the word I was looking for. I couldn't find. I'm looking forward for the meeting on Wednesday.
Absolutely. Take care. Speak soon.
Bye.
Bye bye.